Hello, friends, and I am so excited to be with you today because I wanted to thank all of you who've already signed up for the Four Agreements and welcome in some new folks because the Four Agreements is a wonderful study. We're beginning on Monday, May 3rd, and I'm telling you, it's a life-changing book, and it's so simple and so easy to apply to life. You'll be amazed at the difference it makes in your life and your spiritual journey. Monday, May 3rd, join with me and other like-minded individuals as we study the Four Agreements.
Supportek Staffing and Center for the Healing Arts present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 148. Our good friend Sister Jenna returns to the podcast. And now your host, Reverend Cynthiaaliceanderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthiaaliceanderson and I'm the host. I'm here today with my producer.
Hello, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 148 of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. And we are here in video. So if you are listening to this podcast, maybe pause it, assuming you're not driving, pause it, head over to our YouTube channel, and you can see our lovely faces. And we're so happy to have you with us today.
Yes, we are in 818 Studios, which I forgot to say at the beginning. It threw Dave off, I'm sure. But we're here.
I'm in 818 Studios. We need to name your studio, RCA Studios, although I think that's taken.
That's probably taken, yes. But we have a very special guest with us today, somebody we love and who loves us, and it's always a pleasure to have her on the show, Sister Jenna. So, Sister Jenna, welcome.
Thank you so much. It just feels like home when I'm with you guys.
Exactly. It is. It is. And we know our home is in God and we are always connected. And I've been so grateful to connect recently with some of your friends. And I always appreciate all the introductions and the support you've given me. And I wanted to reach out because, I know, all of us during this time have been in some kind of transition. In a recent show, we called 2020 the year of the pivot because everybody was learning to do things differently, like on the fly. Suddenly we couldn't be in person and we had to learn how to be online. And then we had to buy new tools and then we had to learn new ways, of connecting. And so here we are in 2021. And so many people couldn't wait to get to 2021, and there's still more transition. And I know you and your center, all the great work you do at Meditation Museum, you are even in some transition, and we wanted to talk about that today. So tell us how you are and what's happening for you.
Again, do we have another pandemic to go through? Stuff happens, everyone. And sometimes you have to keep remembering it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. Mm-hmm. And in the midst of a pandemic and the continuation of this global journey that we're all on, I'm having to relocate my whole ashram and community because the owner just came out of nowhere 2 weeks ago to say, you have to move out in less than 2 months. And I think at first it was very jarring because it's your foundation. Your home is your foundation. Mm-hmm. And I think what was more jarring for me, everyone, was the lack of compassion on his side. Mm-hmm. And how my 14 years of being the best tenant was of no value to him. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going through a transition as we speak. And where I'm finding my energy being directed to is love, acceptance, appreciation, and value. Because I can't bind to the negative energy of, oh my God, not now, please. That's the last thing I need. Which I did have as a thought, by the way.
Well, and thank you for sharing that. I think so often when people see someone of your stature, someone who is so clearly connected to spirit and is leading, people all over the world, frankly, in their spiritual path, you really support people, so many people's journey, but you still have to go through the human aspects, and you still have to refocus and readjust, because what we realize, and we were talking about this, before coming on the air, that not everybody understands the responsibility they have in this collective awakening. And so, as much as we are all powerful co-creators, we don't control what life sends. And when life sends that, we have to then, okay, move around and adjust and say, okay, Spirit, not only what is this lesson for me, but how can I rise above and still grow my soul, still act in the best interest of my soul as I move through this time.
So much to that. Many years ago, when I first had my awakening, and the first 4 years, I could feel God's light and God's energy. I felt the anointing. I felt the awakening. I felt the energy of God waking me up from my deep sleep of being delusional about who I think I was.
Mm.
And I remembered how people used to bow to that. And I would go into my meditation room, and I would sit in front of God's light, this light that I have around me everywhere I go. And I would look into the eyes of Brahma Baba, the founder of the Brahma Kumaris, and I would say to Baba, I'm not what they think I am, you know? And the gentle whisper that would touch my conscience is like God saying to me, look, I don't need you to be perfect right now. I just need you to be honest. And through your honesty, you will be led to perfection. Guys, after I got that signal, it was very clear to me that I could project onto people how much power I have, how much authority I have, how much influence I have. And that comes a lot with the ego identity that people just develop over a long period of time. But for everybody who knows me, they know I've not been somebody that pushes that. I know who I am. And I have found that sometimes individuals don't recognize the power and the value in that because they're so used to being deceived that they would rather proselyte, bow down in front of somebody who brings in front of them the ego of who they want you to believe that they are. And then they bow down to that superiority or that power. And for me, I will still just be this very simple, easygoing, playful, open, authentic traveler who deeply, deeply seeks for those spiritual jewels and treasures along the way. And at the end of the journey, it is my aim or my vision that I will become like God, that beautiful expression of God's love. Jesus didn't know 2,000 years later people would still be believing in his message, nor did Buddha, Muhammad, Abraham, or any of these avatars.
Right.
So we need to be in that pure place to say, you know what, I don't know where this is taking me. I just know I need to change certain things inside myself. So whatever people think, oh, well, they're spiritual, they're not supposed to go through that, that's a myth. But I have to tell you this, everyone, whatever we go through, because we're aware of our weaknesses and our strengths, I think there's an element in which we deal with things at a much different level.
Yes, I think you're very right about that. And I think the further we get on our journey, what I've noticed is I'm a better observer of myself and just of behavior in general. And I learn how my behaviors are impacting the collective. So, yes, of course, we have things that we come up and we have to deal with. Life happens. At the end of 2020, I was leaving my career I'd known for many years. My mother passed away in her early 90s, and I had to move all in a week's time. And all of those things had their individual stressors, and yet I could see how all of those were happening at the right time. And yes, I was impacted. There were times of stress, but when I could relax every morning as I, connected in, and I would just take that connection throughout the day and remember, wow, as I go through this, I am supported. So there's this even though, yes, we go through all of these things, we can still tap into the fact that we are so supported by the universe, and that everything that is happening is somehow, as we love to say in Unity, divine order. That somehow our souls have needed this experience to grow, to expand in consciousness, to, as you say, wake up to the God that we really are. But sometimes it takes a bit to get there, depending on what that situation is and what that curveball is that life sends.
Sometimes it just hits you at different stages in your life, and you think you don't have enough strength to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that we always will. It's just that the situation or the event or the relationship or the circumstance becomes a mirror or a catalyst to have you observe in the moment of the tragedy or the trauma, where does your energy go to first? Do you go to feeling like a victim, being abused or hurt, or do you go to like, okay, what next? I guess this chapter's over. Let's move on. And I think that basically all of these lessons and opportunities that we get on a regular basis is just helping you
Yes.
to figure out what is the sum total of the energy that you're carrying inside of you, because challenging situations are there to help you to remove your energy from where you're stuck.
Yes. Yes, most definitely. And, friends, as you're listening, I want you to be encouraged that we are with you on this journey. And we know that life at times is hard, but we are also so clear that we are 100% responsible for not only our reactions, but our actions. And so, sister, when I learned about you, kind of finding out last minute about having to leave your center, the mom of me, the friend of me wanted to come out and tell somebody a couple things about that, and be in real defense of you. And so instead of that, I said, why don't we bring you on the show so that we can tell more people about what you're doing? In other words, how can we be in support? But that lower nature that wanted to fight was ready to, what did we say growing up? Kind of mix it up a bit. I wanted to mix it up a bit with those folks and tell them a few things. But as we talked, I said, this is a time of growth for you and for your center. And it may not have been the timing anybody wanted, but here it is. And so, as I'm, from the outside looking in, from this side, it looks like that you're going to be provided for. Money has already started coming in, and I envision all the money you need, being provided. But I know there's a great surrender step in between what happens and then, these next steps. This had to have been a major process for you and for all the people you serve, I would think.
I'm not somebody that ever does anything called fundraising. I don't think of money. It's not been a big thing on my plate. I don't even do the accounts. So I don't know who actually gives donations and who doesn't give donations to our center and our work. And because of this, I've actually literally had to find a way to reach out from a place within and say, well, look, guys, we're in this situation. Is there a way that you can support? And even when I reached out to you and I sent you about this great awakening of, I don't need a house to live in. I need a place where it's of service. So it seems as if the next stage from here is not just an ashram, but it will be a mini retreat place. So we found the place within 4 days of being told that you have to vacate the space. So we've got like a 2-month period to raise 1.5 million. And so again, I've never thought of that, but when I talk to you, you always talk to me, you and Reverend Sylvia of Unity, you say, the spirit of abundance, Sister Jenna, you've got to be unlimited and just know it's all flowing in. And I'm like, yeah, it's just that I just never think of money. I just don't know how that goes. So it was Reverend Sylvia who came and helped to write this kind of a contribution letter, the one that I sent to you.
Beautiful.
Because I know nothing about this. I don't do it. So when you stepped in and says, I want to have you on air, I'm going to have all of my listeners, whatever it is that anyone can offer towards the Meditation Museum on their donation link, let's do it, sister. We got to help you. And I appreciated that. First, I was expecting you to write me $1 million check. But when you said that you were going to put me on the radio show, I said, that's just as good.
Well, remember, we're all responsible for the collective uplift, not just me. But yes, you do have a lot of wonderful support. And, just hearing that story about it was only 4 days. I had a teacher many years ago who taught me some of the numbers in scripture and their meanings. And that number 4 is the 4 is like the 4 sides of a foundation. So I'm not surprised that in 4 days, a new place was being brought to you. So see, this says to me that there is great divine order in this new place. And I saw the picture and I was very excited about the possibility of bringing a group to your center. And this is what I see for the future for us, that our next big event is going to be at your center. And we're going to be all in this together because we are about the same thing you are. It might be a slightly different perspective, but we're in this with you to raise consciousness. We want people to grow, to prosper, to evolve. We want us to be 100% responsible for our lives and our choices. And we want to see the world, lifted with this higher energy, this higher consciousness. So yes, I mean, we're always honored to have you on. And our listeners, as you're listening, it's like, I see so often people on Facebook, liking this and liking that. When you really support something, you start giving dollars. This is what I know from my own experience. The people that really believe in things, they write checks. And they write checks because they know for something to continue in this world, it has to have financial support. And the financial pieces it's simply just energy. Friends, we have this idea of money that is so off at times in our culture. Money is energy. And when we see something that's helping change the world for the better, it's just what's ours to do. So, yes. So, sister, yes, we want to support that. We want to support the work you're doing. And, I was thinking of all the people around, like I was thinking, all these people in Hollywood that love your work. I can't imagine they're not already pulling out their checkbooks and saying, how can I be of service? Because they know, the work you're doing around the world.
There was a friend of mine that says, aren't you going to contact Oprah? Oprah has enough money to just take care of this for you. And I thought it was a very interesting comment that, again, you have a lot of connections and relationships to individuals. It's not that your connection is based on how much they can give to you.
No.
I have never entered a friendship or a relationship in terms of what am I going to get from you. So
Right.
when that was offered to me as a suggestion where to go, I was like, well, I don't know how to do that. I have never asked for anything from them.
No.
And so it was like, oh, this is new. I will tell you this is my position. Like I will go to you and folks that are very, very, very close who know things that are happening at our level. But I'm not like, oh, let me reach out to Soul. It just doesn't enter my vortex. And so what we've done is I want everyone who comes forward that they're coming forward with that absolute purity of charity. Like
Yes.
somebody was offering something the other day and there were so many stipulations connected to it. And so I just thought, well, you know what, let me contact you if there's a really important need. And I had to basically just humbly say thank you, but no thank you at this time. Yes. Only because their bestowing had so many strings attached. And I just thought, but that's not giving, that's taking. Our whole lives, Cynthia, is to give. Yes. And that's all I've done. And I think that as we continue to move forward, I'm not worried. And it's as if people say you're supposed to worry. You should be this, maybe it's this color. I'm like, I don't have time to worry. All I know is what you said. Everything is about energy. So let me keep my energy pure.
Exactly. Well, and we want to talk more about it. I also want to talk a little bit more about some of your projects. I want to talk about the I Am Peace, the Om Shanti, a little bit too when we come back. So we are going to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsors because we're so grateful for their financial support of the show as well. So, friends, we'll be back right after this with our special guest today, Sister Jenna.
We'll return to the program in just a few moments, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partners, Supportek Staffing. Supportek Staffing is an innovative staffing agency built on the principle of caring about employers and employees as they navigate these new workforce and workplace challenges. If you're an employer, they want to be your human resource partner and help with the changes needed during the pandemic. If you're a candidate, they want to become your lifelong career agent to help you grow into your fullest potential. Supportek prioritizes support over volume, integrity over profits, and will treat your business and your career as if it was their own. You can learn more at supportekstaffing.com. That's SUPPORTEK staffing.com. And finally, we want to give a special word of thanks to Center for the Healing Arts. Center for the Healing Arts is one of the first dedicated group practices devoted to challenging, supportive, and nurturing therapy. Their dedicated therapists have a wide range of expertise, including relationship and couples therapy, individual therapy, addictions, neurofeedback, play therapy for children, adolescents, and families, and therapy for blended family issues. They also regularly offer day-long intensive workshops for relationships, addiction recovery, adult children of alcoholics, and healing trauma in the LGBTQ+ community. For more information, head over to centerforthehealingarts.com or call 407-657-8555, extension 1. We now return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey with your host, Reverend Cynthia.Anderson.
And welcome back. We're glad you're with us. We are in 818 Studios again today. So happy to be with Dave, our producer. Dave, you've been kind of quiet today.
Man, Sister Jenna, I just love you. Just the sound of your voice. Oh, it's so soothing. And I'm just, just talking about kind of getting punted out of the nest. That's absolutely the story of us leaving Memphis, and it was not our choice. I thought Shannon and I were going to retire in Memphis, but
Right.
God had a different idea, and man, has life gotten better for us. You know,
Yes.
it's like God only showed us kind of the edges of the map that we were able to comprehend. Because if he had showed us the whole story, we've gotten really overwhelmed or gotten in our own way or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But so much has happened since that, what was such a painful experience, and it was not by choice, but it was absolutely what was best for our soul, what was best for our family.
Yes.
And so I can absolutely relate, Sister Jenna, with kind of feeling like the victim, and we went there for a long time, and I still struggle with that, and I need to do my own forgiveness work. I need to take that, spend even more time with all of that we've talked about on the show. But I'm absolutely resonating with you, and I can't imagine a more sage guide to walk me through that kind of process than hearing you go through yours.
I have to tell you, when I got the news on that Monday at 5-something, you have to be out by April 21st. I was like, what? Is this for real? And then when I texted back and I called, I go, there must be a mistake here. What do you mean the place is sold? What do you mean this? That night, I immediately went on to Zillow. Let me do searches from now. The Tuesday morning I woke up with like, how could he do this? And then the friends came on, and then I sent out messages to friends. This is what's going on. If you know of a place, I didn't spend any time in wallowing, but I could see simultaneously I was feeling this disappointment in him. There was such a disappointment in the decision and the way he made this decision without any care. And then I thought to myself, what kind of human being has a relationship with tenants for 14 years who has been nothing but stellar? and reached that particular point where there was just no empathy. And then when I went through that day, Dave and Cynthia, with that stuff in my heart, I know there's no way anything good can happen if I can't hold this. Let me look at, thank you for what you've done, and let me move on.
That is
And it
so
was so in needed, though.
That's so poignant, because even though ours wasn't, like a living situation, it was a work situation. We kind of held on for about a year, maybe 9 months after things started going sideways, and I think part of that was me and not liking change, and I kind of, what can we do to kind of keep things happening, and it just kind of spiraled into just grossness, and nobody was happy at all. And feeling like, in our case, it was 11 years. We've invested 11 years, some of the best years of our life, our most productive years, into helping build this thing out of Memphis. And then when it all kind of gotten, quote unquote, taken away from us, we spent 9 months spinning our wheels trying to make it work. So I am really, really resonating and receiving what you're saying here, and I really appreciate you. And like I said, I'm still working through some of that, but I love how just amazing you are through all of this, as absolutely would be expected.
I went through a health opportunity last year, and I reached out to just people who I knew who were prayer people who I knew whose vibrations really could go into that pure place, and to pause their lives even just for a minute or 5 minutes to say, let me share my pure healing vibrations to this soul. I didn't make it public, and I still haven't made it public. And after I did my surgery and went through all of my things and treatments and stuff, two of my friends and students came by to spend time with me. And one of them, their husband, had come to pick her up to take her back home. And while they were in the kitchen, I was walking into the kitchen, and he looked at me and I looked at him and says, I'm so happy to see you guys, happy to have you all here. And then he made this comment and he said, Sister, I've been here. I've been watching you. It's like, I can't believe you're going through what you're going through. It doesn't show at all on your face. There's nothing in your energy that you're going through what you're going through. Do you know what I told him, Dave and Cynthia?
What's that?
And I looked at him and I said, it doesn't mean that I don't need you. And what that moment did for me is how we're also coming out of that old mentality of playing the victim to get help from people. We
Right.
can also still be a hero in our challenges and still get help from our friends who consider us to be heroes, and also keep them in the hero category as well. That was so huge, everyone. It was so big that it doesn't mean that it looks like I am doing well and I have held my spiritual principles and I've used my spiritual understanding and intelligence to navigate through my health opportunity and go through it like a superstar. It didn't mean that I didn't need you. I still need you. And that was huge. And I want everybody to recognize that you don't need to go into the victim to get help. Sometimes maybe people want to invest in strong people to say, look, if they can go through this the way they did, I want to put my money in that.
Yes. 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 You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yes. Well, and speaking of that, for some reason that is reminding me of your other big projects, because it's like, as much as we want to support your movement forward, I think this is part of your movement forward, these big projects you've got going on. So I just saw a little bit of I just saw the I Am Peace Om Shanti, very recently, and I loved it. So tell us a little bit about some of your projects you're creating right now, because I think people don't know all certainly our listeners may not be aware of all that you offer in terms of spiritual resources.
Two things that I've been thinking a lot about, that in the Gita, it basically teaches you that whatever you do, it's just an offering without the intention that something has to come back to you.
Right.
So for 30 years, my whole life, I've given it in service. I have never gotten a paycheck in terms of personally, this is for you. If somebody bestows, they go, please give it to my charity. Please give it to the Meditation Museum. Please give it to America Meditating Radio. And so I'm just wired that way. And even though I'm in a position now, I'm like, we need to do something else. I'm like, it's going to be okay. You know what, Jen? It's okay. When we did the Om Shanti album, it was in just that moment we were on the mountaintop in Mount Abu, India, and myself and Ricky Cage came together, and he asked me to get the words, he did the music. But we didn't know that 3 years later we'd be in the middle of a pandemic. So
Yes.
when the album was released, it's for charity. We are basically, Ricky's into the environment, the external environment, and I'm
Yes.
focused on the inner environment. And we've done this as a free gift to humanity. So again, it's to raise the vibration. So if the album, which is on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, the Om Shanti album by Ricky Cage, who's a Grammy Award winner, and myself, if that has moved your spirit, then support it, share it, tell people about it, send your resources to supporting it. But what we just really were inspiring individuals to do, Cynthia, is can you remember that you really are peace? Because
Yes.
peace is something in everyone. Just sometimes we let the external world make us think we are not that anymore, and we forget that the original nature of the soul is peace. So that album is there, and it's been very heartwarming. Every track has an inspiring idea and thought process to inspire your life. Vibrations of Love talks about the most important thing is to be an embodiment of love. Going with the flow is all about no matter what you're going through, which is the one I listen to a lot now. Whatever you're going through, nothing
Exactly.
is wasted. So it's been
Yes.
like that.
Yeah,
Well,
and of course
and
we'll have links to that in our show notes, so you can check that out.
right, that was what I was about to say. You're
Oh,
so
I'm
good,
sorry.
Dave. Dave, always the producer. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Well, the thing too, sister, I always love to get your take because, as I look out in the world, it still feels like everyone is trying to get their problem solved in the external. That we keep looking to another person or leader or guru, and yes, we get support from our spiritual leaders like yourself. People are supported by this show, but our messages are about becoming the thing itself. And I keep coming back to in this brief time together about the responsibility that each of us have to the collective. And I think we keep wanting to see peace, but we don't want to be the peace, you know? And so can you speak a little to that? Because as we were saying, part of that video is I am peace. It's like just beginning to own that spiritual nature, beginning to, take the time to daily connect in, whether it's through meditation, through a breathing practice, through forgiveness, to begin to do the deeper spiritual work so that then we are bringing that peace into the collective. But I'd love to hear what you would have to say about that.
Original nature of every soul is peace.
Hmm.
The original religion of every soul is peace. But when we get so focused and we invest so much of our energy on the human tendencies of our existence, the body consciousness, the peace that we naturally are gets waned. It
Yeah.
just it gets forgotten. It gets merged.
Hmm.
And it's so unusual, Cynthia, because then we try to do everything. We make decisions to try to find our peace. We make decisions with our career, with our marriages, with relationships, situations, circumstances, so we can find peace of mind and we can be happy. And yet still, we enter into that place inside of the soul where there's a void
Hmm.
and peacelessness sitting there.
Hmm.
And that's why until you deepen your relationship to the divine, to God, to Allah, Jehovah, whatever is the title, until you recognize that peace on the earth cannot be expressed or emerged or amplified until you accept that you are the messenger of peace. I mean, come on, look at Christ, right? I mean, look at the whole story there. We wouldn't recognize what peace was like until we saw the example of that in that soul.
Yes.
So I think we're at that particular point that you are right. It's not just about one person anymore. It's about all of us becoming responsible for that awakening within the soul. And maybe that's the golden opportunity of this particular period that we're in, is that everyone is realizing, I am the peace that I'm looking for in the world. I'm the love that I'm searching for in relationships. I am the abundance that I need for a particular project or a program. So, it has to start with you. And I think majority of people are getting more towards that understanding.
Yes, I think you're right. I've been having some really beautiful spiritual experiences. Every morning I have a time where I journal, I pray, and there's a certain time in the morning where I really begin to experience God as really all that is. It comes as a form of light in the morning, and I even often there's this one tree in particular in my backyard that when the sun hits it a certain way, I feel this tremendous connection. And one morning, I was in this communication that I have, and I remember saying to this tree, "I see, I see your body in this trunk of this tree, and I see that Spanish moss is your hair." And it was this knowing, but I felt um, it was very important for me to speak. Like what I was seeing. And the voice came back to me and said, "Yes, I am in those places. And I'm also in the places you do not see. I am also in the places you are yet to feel." And it's like that is how expansive God is. And so every morning when I can tap into that, it gives me great hope for what's possible in my life, in my ministry, because I know the very thing I'm seeking is always seeking me and is always here, always answering.
I feel like this particular period that we're in is the great healing. They call it the great realization.
Yes.
But I also feel it's the great healing. So many things that we've been distracted from, the silence, the introspection, the isolation, the lack of being able to commune as much as we're accustomed to commune, has us as souls forcing ourselves to look and see you, whatever it is that you've become, and then look at the energy of God, see God in the weeping willow tree or something, and feel the beauty of God's purity, awakening that back in you. And, I believe the future is the golden age, so why not we get into that place of consciousness? So I hear you. I hear you. There's a deep, deep, deep healing that's happening for each and every one of us if
Yes.
we are opened.
Yes, if we are open. And that frankly is the question. So friends, that's really our question to you today. You've heard us speak of our own journeys, of partially our journeys with how we live, with the organizations we lead and manage. And yet it always comes back to, our connection with all that is, our connection with God, the divine as we understand, with light, with all that is, with Jesus, with our spiritual teachers, with light. What are we doing? How are we choosing to tap in, to realize our connection with all that is, and then bring that back into the world? And I feel as a soul, this is my number one responsibility. And I want all of our listeners to think about that. You don't have to be a leader of a spiritual organization. This is, as Sister said in another slightly different way earlier, this is what we are all to do and to be. And then as we do this, we lift our world, into a whole new level of consciousness, of awareness, and of, connection with the divine. So we hope, dear friend, that you are supported, that you are lifted, that you are encouraged by our stories today, by my tears today. And I just know that every time, any of us has this profound connection, we're changed fundamentally. I've been changed fundamentally since that moment. And it's not by any means my first connection with spirit, nor is it my last. I have it regularly, but every time I bring that back to mind, it's like more and more of my ego falls away and goes, okay, where am I not seeing God? So this is our hope for you too, that you will do this work, that you will connect, that you will know how loved, how supported you are by the whole universe. So Sister, anything else you would like to say to our friends listening before we end for today? I just wanted to give you that opportunity.
I just think that it's important that we recognize the importance of simplicity.
Yes.
And the more our minds are becoming clean and clear and honest, then we can receive the simplicity of life and the simple solutions to life.
Yes.
If my mind is corrupt or complicated, no matter how simple the solution is appearing in front of us, we just can't see it.
Exactly.
So my recommendation is just to simplify your life and begin to treasure the small things that are really, really important, and to never let go of your faith and your hope, and to just see the spark in each other. Let it be that when you say good morning to your spouse or your family member in the house, that your eyes sparkle to see them for another day.
Yes.
And you're not taking them for granted, but that you're just happy to see them for another day.
Yes.
And I feel that if we can create this kind of a care or compassion or knowingness, the world will just become a much better place.
Yes. Yes. You are so right. Thank you so much, Sister Jenna. And Dave, as always, as our producer, you always do an amazing job. Thank you. And thank you to our listeners. We love you, friends. We're grateful for your support. And of course, our hope is that you will go on and be a part of joining us in our support for Sister Jenna and the incredible work she's doing, not only in kind of the Maryland, D.C. area, but also around the world. And we bless you for listening. And please, as you feel uplifted, as you feel supported by this work, please share it. We want our world to awaken to this idea that we are all souls and we're on this journey together. So blessings on the journey, dear friend, and we'll see you next week.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey presented by Supportek Staffing and Center for the Healing Arts. This channel is also made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2021 Cynthia_Alice_Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.